in this tutorial, we're going to look at making an invoice form. So we're going to make a printable version and an interactive version. InDesign has great interactive features, and we're going to look at using them, but obviously making our base layers first, and then we're going to look at making the interactive. So I'm actually going to make a list like this, a layer list. I'm going to have my invoice, or I'm just going to call it my base layer, and then I'm going to have my interactive layer and a logo layer. You could split it up to even more layers, but I think that's actually enough of what you need. So let's get started here. I'm actually going to be referring back to this one a little bit. You are going to have some of the content you could either copy and paste, or you could just write it out yourself. So I'm going to make a new document, go to File, New, or Command N, and it's just going to be an 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by 11, I really don't have to worry about too much here. Orientation is fine. Facing pages is off. It's only going to be a single page, so I don't need facing pages. It's only going to be a one-page document, but because I have my layers organized in a very good way, I don't have to worry too much about that. Columns, we're going to worry about that a little bit later. Margins, we can leave them as is, default 1/2 inch. And bleed and slug, there's not going to be any bleed on here, no slug, so don't worry about it. So 8.5 by 11 inches, that's it. So I'm just going to create. And here I am. So I have my margins already laid out, no bleed, totally fine. But the very first thing I want to do is I do want to go to my Pages panel, double click on my master, because I always love to use the master pages and get you familiar with using master pages. If I double click on the master, it's active. If I double click on the live page, page 1, it's active. It's highlighted blue. Double clicked, highlighted blue. So I'm on the master page right now. I'm going to go to layout and margins and columns, and I'm just going to say I want a 2-column structure. That's all, nice and simple. And I'm going to keep my margins as is. The gutter is fine. 2 columns done, and there's my 2-column structure, and that's it. That's all I really need to do here because it's only one page, and everything I'm going to organize into layers anyways. I'm going to be using Swatches Panel and Stroke Panel a little bit, so I'm going to open up panels as I need them, especially the interactive ones when we get to it. But in the meantime, this is where I am right now. So I double click and I'm back on my live page. I can see that's highlighted blue, and I'm ready to get started. I'm just going to Command minus to zoom out, or Command plus to zoom in, but right now Command minus. The very first thing I want to do is I want to set up my text box and make my invoice. So I'm going to be referring back to this one like I said, and I'm going to make this first. Very first thing I do, I'm on my layers panel. I'll change that a little bit later. So I'm just going to click and drag a text box with my text tool, and now I have a text frame, and I'm just going to type in the word invoice. Now what I want you to do here is I want you to play around with one typeface. You could play around with the fonts of that typeface, but one typeface. And the one I'm going to play around with is Helvetica, and I'm going to play around with a Roman to start. And this one is specific to Helvetica, New, Limited, Standard, 50. There's 51 fonts in here, but I only need a few to play around with. But I love playing with this specific one. So I'm going to keep that. And now what I could do, I'm going to make it all caps. I could click on here, all caps, or I can go to my paragraph panel, my character panel, and click on the drop down and say all caps. So there's another way to do that, okay? And I'm just going to make all caps, and now I'm just going to increase the size of it, make it a little bit bigger. I'm using the arrows on my keyboard to make it a little bit bigger, little increments at a time. See, it goes up 1 increment at a time. If I hold down Shift and press the arrow up on my keyboard, it adds increments of 10 or more, which is great. It goes up at increments of 10, making it go up a little bit quicker. Or, of course, I could just type in a number. I say 60, and that's fine. I could just keep going from there. So there's a little bit of play there. What I'm going to try to do is get it so it just fits that area, that column, and I'm good to go there. Now, one thing I need to know, I want to show you 2 different things here. There's something called fitting. So my text frame is this big, but the content inside that frame is this big. If you remember, if you click on a text frame once, you're accessing the frame. You move it around, do whatever you want, change up the size of the frame, whatever that is. If you double click inside any frame, you're accessing the content inside of the frame. So now I can play inside of the frame and play with the type. Change the typeface, change the color, do whatever I want. If I click on just the frame and I change the color of it, well, it changes up the stroke, which is blue, or it changes up the fill, and I'm going to make it blue too. It changes that, the frame. It adds a stroke color and a fill color. If I want to change the color of the text, I have to double click inside the frame, select the text, and then I can change it. So now I've done 2 different things. I play with the frame, or I play with the content inside of the frame. Currently right now I'm just going to leave it as this. Now once again, this frame has this amount of size of the frame, but the content's only this big. What I want to do, I want to fit the frame to the content. I'm a big fan of this, keeping everything really nice and clean. So I can right click and say fitting, fit frame to content. Or you could use the keyboard shortcut, which I'm a huge fan of. So I can just fit frame to content. Now watch what happens. The frame kind of sucks up and only shows the content inside of the frame. Now if I were to make it even smaller, we know what happens. That little red plus sign shows us there's more text. We just can't see it, so I have to make the frame a little bit bigger. So once again, right click, fitting, and fit frame to content. Now it's nice and tight to the content, which I'm, as I said, a big fan of. Now I can play with the font, change it up any way I want, make it a certain way, use condensed or expanded or however. That part I don't mind. I just want you to keep the same typeface. The next part I'm going to look at is just starting off any InDesign file with this. Now by default it doesn't do this, but I can see that I have the frame showing around my text frame. I have that little blue line there. What I could do, I can go to View, I can go to Extras, and I can go to Hide Frame Edges. And what that does, it gets rid of all the frame edges and it just shows them when I hover over them or if I click on them, which is definitely what I want. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at making this area here. So I'm going to make these words. So I'm just going to copy them right here. I'm going to copy, Command C. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to make a new text frame, click and drag inside the first column, and I'm just going to paste. Oh, I don't want to do that actually because I've already pasted that information in. Let me just grab this information there, copy that, and I'm going to put in all that information I need to put in. Okay, there I go. So I'm going to put an invoice number, and I'm going to press enter, an account number, and I'm going to press enter, an issue date. Now the reason why I'm putting this information in is this is the most common information that you're going to put on an invoice. Now I'm preparing this invoice as if you are a designer or any type of artist that wants to create their own invoice, have it specific to them. It's not in Excel. Obviously you could have Excel invoices. They're great because you could make formulas. InDesign doesn't really have formulas for you to calculate. There is a way to do it, I believe, using scripts, but we're not going to do that. You would do this manually. But if you wanted to design your own invoice and make it look specific to your style, your branding, and develop that, and now every invoice you send has that branding look to it of your brand, that's a very good way to obviously build that brand. So I just typed in that information. Now let's look at one other thing. Is I want to look at the type, and I want to go to the bottom here, show hidden characters. Now look what happens when I show the hidden characters. It shows all these hidden little glyphs that actually represent something. Now I know that this little number sign, hashtag, pound sign, whatever you want to call it, and represents the end of something, the end of the sentence, end of the story. And I have these little pilcrows, these paragraphs, these hard returns that symbolize a return. So it's going to stop here and go to the next line. So that's where it continues on the next line. And then I'm going to have a few different other ones, but it's always good to show off your hidden characters so you could see if there's issues and you can really control your type this way, which what InDesign is all about and you as a designer is all about, controlling your type. Now, I could also see that these little spaces in between, the little dots represent spaces. That's fine. So I definitely want to hide my frame edges and show hidden characters. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create these lines. Now normally I'm going to show you the wrong way to do it because the lines are here as well. They're perfect. What I want to do is what I would normally do, which I've made many mistakes back in the day, is I would create a line. I'd grab the line tool, I'd give it a bit of a stroke depending on the size of the stroke, and I would just continue and try to fix it that way. Now remember, this is the wrong way to do it, but I just want to show you how we problem solve and make things better than what they are. So I do that, and that's actually not bad, quite frankly, but it's not great. Number one, they're not lined up properly. I could do a displacement where I can align them better using the displacement method, make sure I'm on selection, and I could distribute the lines, and that looks a little bit better, but this still isn't good because what happens is if I increase the text frame and I say, you know what, it's a little tight, I want to increase the leading, look what happens. All the lines no longer work and I got to move them anyways. So let's just get rid of those. There's a better way to do it. So what I want to do is I'm going to add in some tabs because we need to learn tabs anyways. So I'm going to open up my type and open up my tabs panel. Now the tabs panel is a panel and it's not under the window of panels, it's under type, and there's your tabs, okay? So what I want to do now is I'm going to set up my tabs. I'm going to remember, to set up tabs, you have to select type that the tabs are going to be a part of. So I select the type, Command A, or just click and drag all the type, and now I can set up my tab. I want a right aligned tab, and I'm just going to click and drag inside this white space here above the ruler. I'm going to click and drag, and look at that. I'm using the wrong tab. That's okay. I put it in. I could change it anytime I want. I'm going to change it to the right justified tab, and I'm just going to keep on clicking and dragging. Now what I want to do, I want to align it to the beginning of that gutter. And as I go over, oh, I went a little too far, but that's okay. If I look at the tab, I can just bring it back to the end of that white area or align it right to that line, the first part of the gutter, the beginning of the gutter. And there I am. I've set up my tab. My tab is good. I can close this now. I don't need it. What I can do now is just press tab, and there's my tab. I could press tab, 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 and continue. There is all my tabs set up. Now what I could do is what I want to do here. I could actually take that tab, highlight one tab, and go to my paragraph panel, click on the drop down, and look at, oh sorry, not the paragraph panel, the character panel, my apologies, and go to Underline Options. I'll click on Underline Options and look at all the different things I can do with adding an underline here. Just like here, I'm just going to click on the underline, and now I can change up the weight, which I'm a big fan of 0.125 points for the weight. Nice and thin, but it's visible enough. I can offset it if I want to offset it more or less. So you can do negative or positive. Now I'm going to leave it at 1 point. That's totally fine. I can change up the color, which I'm not going to do. I can change up the gap color. I could change up the type if I want it to be dashed or dotted. I'm not going to do that. And obviously clicking on your preview will help you see it, which you should always do. So there's a lot of options here you could do to add the underline, or quite frankly, you could just add an underline here, but using the character panel drop down for underline options gives you a lot more choice, a lot more options. And then once again, we're always talking about control with InDesign. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select that whole tab, copy it. I'm going to select this tab and just paste over top of it, paste over top of that one, select and paste, Command V. I'm just pasting over top of those tabs that I've already set up with the new tab that has an underline, and that's it. Now watch what happens. When I change up the leading, the line moves with the leading. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Ultimate control in InDesign. So what I'm going to do now, because the build 2 actually has a little bit more information that they could fill in, so I'm going to copy this tab, Command C, press Enter, Command V, press Enter, Command V, press Enter, Command V. So I'm just going to add a few more lines, 3 more lines at the bottom. You could add more if you want, but for the most part, an invoice number is usually not that long. An account number is usually not that long. Issue date, same with that. They're usually not that long. This is more than enough space for them, but you might want to add more. The bill 2 is very important, so make sure you get that information correctly. But that's it. We've already set that up. Looking good. We're very happy with what we set up there. All right. So now at about this time, I'm going to change my layer panel. I'm just going to call this the base layer. So the base layer of all the information that we have that is going to be on our print PDF. Remember, we're going to make 2 PDFs, a print version of this PDF that you could print off and write information down, or an interactive one where you could fill out through Adobe Acrobat and send to whomever you want. So there's a couple great ways to do that. So here I am. I have that all set up, which is great. The next thing I want to do, so we played around with our tabs, and remember, with my preview mode, I'm just pressing W. It gets me in and out of preview mode. If I want to go back to preview mode, I click here. Or I could press W on my keyboard, or if I go back to normal mode, which is my working mode, I can see my workspace, see all my hidden characters and all my text frames and everything like that. So now I want to set up my table. So my table here is, I'm just going to shut that off or lock that. My table is another great way to organize information in InDesign. And it's very easy, but there are some things we need to know about tables in InDesign. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start off with playing with a table. So I'm going to go to the table dropdown. There's a table, but there's also a table panel. So types and tables, which I don't know why tables and type are together. I never understood that. Either way, it doesn't matter. There's type and tables under my window, a dropdown. I'm going to click on table because I'm going to need that. I'm going to play around with that quite a bit too. But first, I'm going to go to table and create table. Now look, we have a lot of options here that you're going to see in here too. Create a table, convert table to text, and vice versa, table options, cell options, insert, delete, select. So there's a lot of different things we could do here that we could also do in here, but it's good to have access to both. So I'm going to create my table, and I want this to have rows going down. I'm going to say about 12 rows down, and I just want 4 across as my other one shows. Header rows, footer rows, we're going to set up ourselves, and there's no table style that we've made yet, like a character style, paragraph style, or object style. There are table styles that if you've already made a style, you could just apply it to any table, but we don't have that. We're going to make our own. We'll press OK because we're learning about tables. Now, the table is there, it's ready to go, but InDesign just needs to know, well, how wide do you want this table? How high do you want this table? So that's all I'm going to do. If I just click once, it makes that. Now that's fine, but it's not what I want. I'm going to do that again. Go to table and create table. It's the same, 12 by 4, say OK. This time I just want to click and drag from one margin to the other, and I want to save a bit of space at the bottom, and I'm just going to say OK. Now we can change that anytime we want. We don't have to worry about that. So here's my table. Here's the default look of that table, which is totally fine. You can see that there's number signs inside each. That's end of story, but meaning I could click inside and I could play around and add some type. Okay. But let's look at the table. It has the same idea as all things inside InDesign. If I click on it once, I'm accessing the frame. I can move it around. I can change up the size. I can do whatever I want. If I double click inside, I'm accessing a cell inside the table. Okay, so now I have that cell, but now watch, if I click and drag across the whole cell, look what happens. It highlights the entire cell. And now with my control panel, there's more things I could do, which we're going to get at a little bit after. And even inside the table panel, there's a lot of things I can do. If I click many, click and drag across many, look at that. I have access to the whole row. If I click and drag down, I have access to the whole column. If I click and drag just a few, I have access to those, and I could do something just to those areas. Here's another way to select the table. If I click and I'm clicked inside, double clicked inside my frame, watch what happens when I hover over top of the top of it, top column. A little dark arrow shows up pointing down. I could select an entire column. I could select multiple columns. Now, same thing happens if I go to the left-hand side of it. I could select multiple rows if I just click and drag. I could select certain rows if I just want to select certain rows. To select the entire table, I'm going to go to the top left, and my arrow is going to turn into a diagonal arrow. And now I'm selecting the whole table. We can see it's all selected that way. I want to stay here for a second because I want to look at the stroke panel. Now, the stroke by default is a decent sized stroke. It's 1 point, which is totally fine. But for me, I like a thinner stroke because I like that the content inside and the way we lay it out, it doesn't interfere with that. This larger stroke doesn't interfere with that. So I'm going to select the entire table. And what I'm going to do is see how the stroke works here. The stroke panel changes a little bit. So look what happens here in this area that shows up. I have this blue outline around the entire table. More or less, this indicates the table. But these 2 black lines inside are not selected. I can select them. Look at that. I selected it there, selected that. What that does, it allows me to change up every stroke inside this table. And let me do that right now just to show you. 0.125, big fan of that number. Look at that, everything has changed. Now, if I select the entire row again, or entire table again, I'm going to click off of those 2 inside the column structures and row structures and make them, let's just say, back to that 2 actually, just to give you a better understanding of it. What it's going to do is just going to change the border of the entire table, and we can see that. See how the border has changed. Now, look what else happened. This is very important too, is that the table got a little bit bigger than the actual frame it's in. So the red plus sign shows up showing that there's more content inside this frame than you can see. So let me just drag this down a little bit. Perfect. Now everything is there, and I could also do a fitting once again. Fitting, fit frame to content, there it is. Now, here's another issue that shows up with our frame and our table. It's just specific to the table for some reason. When I extend the text frame a little bit larger, not a problem. The table doesn't get any bigger, just the frame. But when I decrease the frame, what should happen? Usually what happens is we lose that information. When I'm just dragging the width. But look what happens. The table is still showing right here. even though it's not inside the frame. So here's one thing you really need to know. I made the frame smaller than the actual table. The width, of course, not the height. So what I do, I could click on the frame still and I could access the table. That's great. But if I click over here, I can't access the table because the frame does not extend to the width of the table. So a good rule of advice is always to make sure that the frame fits the table properly so you can see everything. That's an important thing with the table because it can get a little tricky if you don't understand how sometimes when you bring a frame in, the information is gone. It's not, you can't see it. It's there, but you just can't see it. This and the table, it is still there visible, but you just have to extend the frame. Now, if I do it the opposite way and just play with the height, yes, it will show you that there's text, there's still table, but it is underneath, or more or less it's just hidden at the moment. So I would just have to extend that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna click back, double click inside the frame, do this again, and make sure everything is 0.125. Now your table might be different, that's not a problem. I just wanna show you the different ways you could play with it. So what I want to do next is I want to add in this information here. I'm going to play around with this entire thing here. I'm going to add up, make my own little header. I'm going to merge some cells. I'm going to play around with changing the color of the background. I'm going to do a few different things. I'm going to move around. Notice how the job description area is bigger, it's wider than the hours and cost of hour in total. Okay, so we're going to play around with that. So let's do that right now. So first I want to do is I want to click and drag. Actually, no, I don't. I'm just going to put in some information. I know that this says job description. This one says hours. This one says hours over the wage or the cost. I think it's cost. And this is your total. Now, once again, as an artist, as a designer, as any type of creative person, you're going to do your own freelance job, let's assume. You're going to put in the job description what you did. I designed a business card. Great. How many hours did it take? It took me 2 hours. How much you charge per hour? Or it should be cost per hour. My apologies. And then I'm going to put in, how much you charge per hour, and then calculate that total. Then I'm going to bring the total down with all the jobs I've done, and then add it up. That's exactly how it does. Very, very simple, but it's very nice to be able to do this on your own and have your own, like I said, branded look to do that. But the header we need to make look a little bit better than this, obviously. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, first off, I'm going to select all of them. Just click and drag, or I could have clicked over here, same idea, click the row, and look at some of the things I could do up here. I can, by default, everything's aligned to the top. That's great. I could align to the center. I could align to the bottom. Or I could align vertically, which I'm not a big fan of. So I'm just for now going to align to the center. So it's centered inside their individual cells. I'm also going to center them if I want to center them, which in this situation, that works out for me. If I want to left align, that's fine. Right align, whatever you want to do. You can also change up the rotation. Rotate, that's your normal. You could rotate them this way or that way or this way, upside down. So there's a lot of control over it. But in the meantime, obviously, there's a lot of simple things you're going to be doing here. I have whatever I have down up here, I also have in my table panel, which we're going to look at in just a second. So I have a lot of structure there as well, a lot of options. Align, center, the rotation, it's all there and up here. So it's always good to have a couple different places to play around with that. So what I'm going to do now, once again, I have to choose that typeface that I wanted. I'm going to go to Helvetica, but instead of doing it that way, let me show you another way we can do it. I select this type. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I select the type, and what I can do with the actual the eyedropper is make sure the eyedropper tool is selected and click on the type that I've already selected that I want. I like that style. It's Helvetica New, and it's a certain point size. It's a certain tracking, has certain everything to it. I'm just going to click on it, and look what happened. It chose that style for me for this because I had it selected. I'm going to do it one more time. I select the type. Oh, I want to change the style to this style. I select my eyedropper and I click, and look what it does. It changes it to that exact style, which is Helvetica New 55 Roman 1018 and all the same. And if I click on this, Helvetica New Roman 1018 and all the same. So using the eyedropper tool will help you keep things consistent. And obviously, if you want to make styles in your paragraph styles and character styles, you can. But there's another way to do it, obviously, this way. If I want, of course, I could select the type and do it all manually. Helvetica, and make it 55 Roman. That's totally fine. And then change it to 1018. I could do that. Or at least 10 auto I should do. Okay, same idea, but doing it with the eyedropper, a little bit quicker. Okay, so I'm going to do that one more time, and I'm going to go there. And once again, we saw that some of these, they left justified because that was this style. Well, I want to get it back to centered. So I'm going to center it, and it's centered vertically and horizontally, looking good. And the next thing I want to do also is I want to, let's make them all caps. So I can go to my character panel, I assume I can do it here, and click on all caps. And then they're going to be all caps, which in this situation, it's fine by me. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a color in the background. So I'm just going to add that color. So click and drag the entire row. And now if I go to my swatches, look what I can do. The stroke obviously is black, but the fill, let's make it black as well. But let's bring down the tint, because if I leave it alone, it's black on black. It's going to be a black type with on top of a black background. So let me just bring down the tint to say about 30%. And that looks good to me. That's totally fine. So that's another way to play around with that. Here's something else we could do with playing with the table cells. Here on the table cells, I could make certain cells and certain rows, well, certain rows or columns or certain cells, a certain height or certain width. I could keep them very specific. So if I want, I could say I want the these rows, or sorry, this row to be exactly, let's say 0.3. And see what that does for us. 0.3 inches. Yeah, a little bit smaller. That's nice. But they're exactly 0.3, maybe 0.25. Makes it a little bit smaller. But because it's a header, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, 0.4. Or I'm actually 0.5. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. We can play around with that anytime we want. Okay? Now we could also do the same thing with the actual width of those rows. But we're not going to play around with that just yet or realistically because our width is kind of already set out. We just need to work with the height. Now with this height, I'm going to say I want all of these. I'm going to open it up a little bit. I'm going to say all of these I want to be at least, let's say 0.25. So a little bit smaller, maybe not the greatest, 0.3. How about 0.3? And I still have room to type in and whatever I need to do for my description and hours and cost per hour. That's great. So while I'm here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start to move around my table. I'm going to start to play around with how I'm making the job description a little wider and the hours and the cost and the total. The very first thing I want to do, I'm going to hover over my table. Once again, it's selected. Let me do this one more time. I'm going to click on the frame. I've selected the frame. I'm going to double click and now I'm selecting the table. Watch what happens when I hover over a column line. I can move it. Watch what happens when I hover over a row line. I could obviously move it around too. I'm going to undo that. I'm just going to take this column line and click and drag it over to the beginning of the gutter. So now I have a lot more information for my job description area. I'm going to have a little less for my hour, a little less for cost hour, and a little less for total. But look what happened. Obviously, my table went past, and it's actually outside of the text frame. That's okay. What I'll do is I'm going to bring this one back and bring this one back. And what I'm going to say is I want these two, I'm going to select all these cells to be at exactly, let's say 0.5. Oh, sorry, wrong one. I want it down here. I want the width to be exactly 0.5. A little too small, right? So let's bring it up. Okay, that's not bad. Let's make it an even 1. And then our final column, the total, let's just bring it in all the way to the margin, and there I go. I'm going to do another fitting, and there it is. Now I have a large job description area, I have an equal amount of space for hours and cost per hour, and I have a larger amount of space for total. Hopefully that total space can be filled out with bigger numbers than smaller numbers, okay? So there we've lined that up, we can move it around, we can do whatever we want. We have a nice table here. Now obviously my table here is a little bit bigger and I have more rows. You could always add more rows if you want to add more rows. I'm just playing around with this to get you started. Okay, there was 12 rows. You could always add more rows. Well, how do I add more rows? Right up here, you could add more rows. If I wanted more rows, I'll say, yeah, I want more rows. I wanted 15. Okay, now I have 15. It just adds it to the bottom. Okay, I have 15 rows. And if you wanted more columns, yes, you click on it and you could add more columns. You could also do the drop down of your table menu, cell options, insert, delete. So if you want to insert more rows and columns, you can. If you want to delete rows and columns, you can. There's a lot of different things we could do also in the table drop down here as well. You can do those same things. So a lot of access to playing around with the table. So the next thing I want to do, if I look at this, I'm going to start adding in my subtotal, tax, and total. So My bottom three I'm going to take. I'm going to put my subtotal, my tax. Now here in Ontario, we have an HST, which is 13% on all sales, on all goods and services, and then my total. Okay, there I have that. Now look at this, what happened here. I have a little red dot. That red dot is once again indicative of the idea that there's overset text. There's text inside this cell that I can't see. How do I fix that? Very easily. I can just make these all a little bit smaller in type size, and there the red dot is gone, and I have all my text there. But once again, now this is a different typeface too. I'm trying to stick with Helvetica. It always goes to the default minion. So that's all I'm going to do is select that type and click on here, and look what happens. It makes it that exact style. I'm going to do it again here. And if still selected, I'm just going to click and drag here as well. So I don't have to keep going back. Now, once again, it's still a little too big. That's okay. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And there I go, fits in. I'll make this one a little bit smaller. It fits into 9 point. And this one, actually, I'm going to make this one bigger because total, really, if you're looking at an invoice, the one thing you want to see, number one, yes, it's an invoice. You got to think somebody might have a lot of papers, a lot of emails, and they're just skimming through everything. And if they see that big invoice, they know, yep, I got to take care of this. I got to pay for this. Then we're going to put in the logo. Who is it from? Yes, that's who's it from. And then the last thing they want to see, or maybe even the first thing they want to see, how much do I owe that person? So we're going to have a big number there, okay? So this is kind of what we wanted to look at there. I'm just going to press W to see where we're at. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to merge some cells. I want to bring some cells together to make a larger box inside of the table and where I could put this information there, okay? So what I'm going to do, let me actually see if I could select this type. Yeah, I'm going to select that type, copy it, and then I'm going to go, I'm going to select these 3 cells. I select them very easily, just click and drag and select as many as you want, but I want these 6 cells selected, 6 cells selected, and I just want to right click, and I can do a few things. I can merge the cells here. I can go to my table and I can merge the cells, or I can go to my table, drop down, and merge the cells. It doesn't matter. All of them are merged. Now, if I made a mistake, that's okay. I could always unmerge the cells anywhere I want. Right-click or go to Table 2. So there, all my cells are merged. Great. And I could always unmerge them. I'm just going to paste in the information, and there it is. Now, I played around with a little bit of hierarchy, means thank you for your business, and made my disclaimer information a little bit smaller. Now, what I could do, obviously here, and here, quite frankly, I should do it as well, is I'm just going to center all that information vertically, and I'm going to center, let me click on the whole cell, not just the type, and I'm going to center it there as well. And I could play around with the leading if I want to bring that up just a little bit more, just to keep it nice and tight. And I can also play around with the vertical. Now I know that if this is centered, I'm not a big fan of that, but I can play around with the paragraph and actually bring in the paragraph, the left line indent. And I could bring it in. And if I want, I could also bring in the right line indent to make it really nice and readable. Okay, so there I have, playing around with my paragraph, first line or left line indent and right line indent, not just the first line and last line, but my actual indents there, and I keep it nice looking there too. So I have that control that I could play around with paragraph styles inside my cells. So that's all. So there we are. So next what I want to do is I do want to play around with bringing in my logo, because it's going to dictate now for this particular project, I want there to be 2 colors. The only 2 colors you're allowed is black and a Pantone color. Now, the Pantone color I made from my logo that I made in Illustrator. So now I'm going to show you how to bring in a logo, a vector graphic from Illustrator into another vector program, InDesign, and just paste it in. But I'm going to show you there's going to be some issues. So I'm going to go to Illustrator, and here is the logo I made. Now let's look at the logo. Number 1, I see that it is all outlined. If yours is not all outlined, go to Type, and you're going to, this is going to be grayed out for me, but because I've already done it, create outlines. If you don't do that, the type you bring in might get messed up, and more than likely will. It's not going to look correct. Because what I want to do, I want to bring this in as graphics, not as type. Because sometimes bringing in type from Illustrator into InDesign, it doesn't work properly. So doing it this way, there's no issues. It's already outlined. You can't have any problems. So the other thing I notice, if I click on just this word here, this letter here that has a certain color on it, I'm going to go to my swatches and look, it's a Pantone color. So I've already set out my Pantone here, Pantone 228 uncoded U. So if I select all this content, Command C, I go back to InDesign and I click I make a new layer and I call it logo. And on that layer, I Command V, there's my logo. Perfect. Perfect as is. That's all I have to do is align it the way I want to align it to my margins and maybe to the bottom of this. An easy way to do that, select my logo, select my text frame, select my text frame again, and notice there's a blue line around it. What it's going to do, it's going to select to the key object. See how the key object went there? Because I selected an object inside my selection. Say I want to select it there. I'm just going to bottom align it, and there it goes. It is aligned to the bottom of that text frame. Great. There is my logo with all my information, obviously some fake information. That's totally fine. I'm quite content with having fake information on this. Obviously, a real invoice would have real information. You have your little icon set, you have your nice logo, maybe make the logo bigger, depending on what you want to do. Now look what else happened. In my swatch panel, what happened was, because it was a vector graphic inside Illustrator and it had a certain Pantone, it also brought that Pantone in to the swatch panel. That's actually very good. That's a great thing. But you have to be careful. If your logo in Illustrator has many colors and even some colors you didn't realize, or you used two different blacks, which once again you didn't realize, you use the regular black and you use the rich black, true black, whatever, you're going to have issues. So in InDesign, it's going to show you here all the colors that you have going on. Now remember, once again, I only want this to be two colors, a black, this black, and if you want to make a rich black, you can, but there's also one Pantone color. So what I can do is I'm going to click on the drop down of the swatches panel. And I'm going to click and I'm going to show you select all unused colors. And look what it shows me. It selects all the colors that haven't been used. These are the default colors InDesign gives me. I'm not using them. So I'm just going to trash them, throw them out. So they don't even have anything to do with my, my document here. Now I'm going to do one more here. Click on the drop down and go to Add Unnamed Colors. Now what might happen there, it's going to show you colors that at first weren't understood by InDesign, saying, yeah, these are proper colors, but then it looks for those colors that didn't have a proper name to them, and it adds those colors to your swatch panel. Now in this case, those colors aren't there, but it's always good to click on that, add unnamed colors, to make sure there's no hidden colors in there that InDesign actually does see, but doesn't recognize in the swatch panel. So you would add those and you kind of go from there. Now, this blue here, I assume is indicating these colors. I don't know why that sign's there, but that's okay. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to throw it away. And it says, okay, wait a second. Here's a great thing about InDesign. InDesign says, okay, you want to throw a color away that apparently is attached to something, which I don't know what it is. I'm just going to say, it's going to say, well, what do you want it to look like now? Do you want it to be black or this gray or this Pantone? No, just black. And I'll say, okay. And now whatever was that blue color is gone. Now this leads me to another one. This extra black came in because it was a part of this. I must have used an 80% black here. I don't want that. Now realistically, it is a tint of the black, so I can use that, but just to be on the safe side, I'm going to throw that out too. And it says, what do you want to replace it with? I want to replace it with the black. And I'll say, okay, and now it's gone. But I can use tints of black and tints of my Pantone color. So what I suggest you do when you're choosing a Pantone color, choose a darker tone Pantone color, so that way you have many tints to use as well. So if I want to, I could say, oh, I want to use a tint of that, and there's a tint that I could use of that color. But obviously I don't want it to be that. If I say, okay, I'm going to choose this color with my direct select tool and say I want it to be a tint of that Pantone, well, that's totally fine. It's a tint of it, and it still acts, it still counts as one color because you're just adding white to it more or less, or less of the color and more of the paper showing through. Okay, so that's how that works. Now going from there, if I wanted to, I can look at these icons. These icons show me something interesting. So the icon says here that this black is a processed black and it's CMYK. Let's double click on that and see. It's locked, it won't show us that. That's okay. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do with my Pantone color. Let's look at what's going on here. I'm going to double click on the Pantone color. And if I double click on the Pantone color, it brings up the swatch options. Look, it has the proper name of the Pantone. It says that it's a spot color, but look what else it did. It said that it's CMYK. Well, that's not right. A Pantone color shouldn't be CMYK. A Pantone color that has a name but is made of CMYK isn't actually a Pantone color. It's a CMYK color. So I need to convert it. I need to change this into a Pantone. So what I like to use is solid uncoated for this particular one. And I'm going to type in that 228U, and there it is right there. I click on it. I'll say OK. And now it's a proper Pantone color. Look, it's a spot color. This suggests it's a spot color. And this icon shows it's a Pantone color. So just in case yours doesn't show up properly, make sure it's a spot color. So I'll double click in there. Make sure it's a spot color. And make sure this icon is a Pantone just by clicking on your color mode, going to the bottom, solid uncoated or solid coated, but more than likely this one will be solid uncoated. Choose your proper Pantone that you had from before, or just choose a new one and go from there. Now here's what I wanted to show you as well. Here's another thing. If I want to add a new color, it says, okay, do you want to add, actually let me cancel that. Let me go here, I'm going to add a new color. There's my color, black copy, which is from this one. I'm going to double click on that. And what I want to do, I want to add a new Pantone color. Let's just pretend. I'm going to go to my color mode, CMYK, and click on Pantone Plus Solid Coated, and let's pretend I actually had a new color. Let's say it was this nice blue here. I'm just going to double hit that. I'm going to say OK, and now look. I have this new blue in my swatch panel. It's a spot color. It's a Pantone color. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete my first Pantone color. I'm just going to click and drag it to the trash. And what does InDesign ask? Says, okay, you want to get rid of it, but there's actually some of that color being used. What do you want to change it to? I'm going to change it to my new Pantone color. I'll say okay, and there I go. It automatically changes it for me. Anything that was that purple Pantone color is now going to automatically change to this one. You don't have to do that. I just want to show you, you can. It's a proper black that I'm using. It's a proper Pantone that I'm using, and I'm good to go from there. So now what I want to do, I want to add a little bit of that Pantone to the back. So let's add that Pantone color to the fill of my row. There it is. Nice. It adds a little bit of color, a little splash. Now I can do the same thing down here, but instead what I'm going to do with this row, I'm going to keep that black fill, but at a 20%. And now that looks good too. So these are two things we're really having the viewer look at that are really important. Now this bottom one here, I could bring back and say, no, I want it to be the Pantone, and it's got to be a specific color. And maybe these ones I should make a little bit bigger. So let me try to do this, because the problem is, I should have done this before, but that's okay. I wanted, because I merged these cells, that might be a bit of an issue. So let me drag this down. It does work. So I'm able to make this area, these cells, a little bit wider, or taller, so this one I can make stand out a little bit more. You know, playing around with hierarchy, that idea of hierarchy, making something stand out and more helpful. So I'm going to select these ones too, and I'm going to center those, or actually right align those, so now they're right aligned to the information I need here. Okay, so our table looks to be pretty much complete at the moment. I see that I didn't do change the color of these individual words to my new Pantone color. So I'm going to change them to my new Pantone color. And once again, if I don't like this Pantone, I can change up the Pantone. It's fine. I'm just going to make it look like this. Now, once again, yours might be a little bit different, but the structure will generally be there, which is what I'm looking for, okay? I've uppercased this. You don't have to uppercase, but you understand why I did that and so on. So this is looking pretty good. I press preview. I'm happy with that. Oh, see, I messed up. That wasn't black, so there I am there. Perfect. Okay, now what I want to do is I am content with this. I have to add, I think, the dotted line, and I have to add in my paid by information, and that's it. Then I'm going to move on to the interactive elements, which are fairly quick too, but you know, you do have to learn about them a little bit there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add in this paid by information. So I'm going to select this, select the paid by info. I'm going to paste it in, but I'm going to show you how I did it. So I have this paid by information. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure the logo is locked now. I'm going to lock the logo layer because I don't need it anymore. If I want to move it later, I can. I can unlock it and move it. I go back to the base layer because this is the last thing that needs to go on the base layer for my invoice. I'm going to select a text frame, click and drag, and there I am. I'm going to type in paid by. I'm going to type in credit card. Then I'm going to just press space. I'm going to type in check, press enter. I'm going to type in cash, press enter, and then I'm going to, space, and then I'm going to type in online transfer. Okay, that's it. So now what I can do, and maybe I should do this properly, do a nice little credit card, check, capital C, and capital O, and there we go, just not everything's lowercase. I'm going to take this information, number one, what I'll do with the paid by, I'm going to make it look a little bit better. I'm going to uppercase it, and once again, I do have to make it look like everything else with the Helvetica. I'm just going to select it, click on my eyedropper, and select a style that I currently have that I like, and there I go. Now, once again, I'm going to fix that up, cancel that. I'm going to select this, make it all uppercase, and maybe I'll change up it to bold, and I'll make it a little bit smaller. Readable, but still not too much, doesn't take up too much of that space. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use that tab again, because I'm going to try to tab this out, as I've done here, to make it work a little bit better. So I'm going to select it all. I'm going to go to my type and go to my tabs again. And I'm just going to make a new tab. Now, I'm not going to go all the way like I did with this one. I'm just going to bring it back here and say, there is my tab right there. So now if I put a tab in after check and put a tab in after online transfer, oh, I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to switch that tab out. There I go. Now I have that set up. Okay, because I'm going to make it look like this, the way we have this. I'm going to put, make it look like that. Because what we're trying to say here is that we have, okay, how did this person pay for the invoice? How do they plan on paying for it? And then we're going to add some buttons in there, some check boxes so people could, you could write down or indicate what they actually paid. Did they pay by credit card or cash or whatever? So a little added feature that we have there too. I'm just going to bring this to the bottom there. Once again, your table could be bigger. I could add more rows if I wanted to. And that's it. That is a part of the invoice. I'm happy with that. It's totally fine. The last thing I need to do is just, I want to show you how to make a dotted line. It's very simple, but we did this in Illustrator, and it's very difficult to make a dotted line in Illustrator. Hopefully they change that soon. I'm just going to click and drag a line, or I could use my pen tool. I could do whatever. I've selected that line. That's all I need to do. I can go to my stroke panel, or I can go to the top control panel up here. What I'm just going to do here, I'm just going to say it's going to be 1 point, and it's going to be a dotted, I think I wanted a dotted line. So there's a dotted line. That's all. I just wanted to show me how to make a dotted line. You could put it anywhere you want, something that makes sense. You could make it bigger, you can make it, change up the spacing, do whatever you want. I just wanted you to show me how to make a dotted line, add it in there somewhere that makes sense. Okay, there I am complete, and I'm done with my invoice, the print part of it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the interactive elements of it, okay? So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call it interactive. And once again, this is all happening on one layer, because what I'm doing, instead of making multiple pages or multiple documents, I'm just going to put interactive elements on top of the base layer of the print information, and that's it. And then I could actually just turn it on and off whenever I want to just show the print or just show the interactive. Okay, here's how the interactive elements work. Okay, I'm going to open up under interactive window, interactive, buttons and forms. If I click on that, it's going to open up this information here, buttons and forms. Now bookmarks I don't need, I'm just going to get rid of. So here it is. I'm actually going to bring it over here so we can see a little bit better. Now what I need to do first is I need to make a text frame, because I want to make text fields that somebody can input this information in here. So I'm going to lock my base layer, and I'm just going to work on the interactive layer. So I'm going to click on a text field, the text tool, type tool, and I'm going to click and drag a random text frame. Actually, I should put on my guide so I could show take off the preview so I can see it goes up to the column guide. And I'm going to, look, the type is selected. Now watch what happens. The text frame is selected. I'm going to measure it up, but I can always change it after, doesn't matter. And look, on the buttons and forms, I'm going to click on the type of information that someone's going to input. They're going to type it into a text field. So I'm going to create this out of a text field. And look what happened right away. It made it a dashed line around the entire thing, which indicates to me it is now an interactive element. I can still change up the size of it as I did a text frame, doesn't matter. But now I can actually play with it as an interactive element. I'm going to go to name, and I'm going to say this is for my invoice number. And I'm also going to make that the description as well. It's good to be robust when we're talking about interactive elements. Sorry, I undid that. I'm going to copy it, Command C, and I'm also going to make that the description. Now, on the event, we're going to leave alone. We're going to play with this later. It's going to be on release or tap. So that means if somebody just hovers over it, well, clicks on it, but we're going to see how that works. They click on it and they can start typing in information. The actions, there are no actions, and it's going to be printable, meaning that the information that goes in here, if somebody were to print it off, it would be printed, it wouldn't be hidden. And these ones, all the text frames we're going to make here are going to be required, not scrollable. And here what I could also do is put in what type, what font, what typeface I want it to be. Now it doesn't really matter because certain programs will do certain things, but for now I'm going to leave it as is. It's going to be Mini and Pro 12-point regular, okay? So we're going to leave it at that. That's it. So now I've made one. Now all I have to do is make another one. But an easy way to do that is just to click and drag the current one you have, hold down Option, double cursor, it turns into a double cursor, meaning I'm duplicating it, and I'm holding down Shift to keep it in place. Now I have two. I'm going to shrink this one down, and I'll say, you know what, this one's a little too big. I deleted it. This one has the same information. So I'm just going to click and drag, bring this one up. Now that's the size I want all of them to be. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, Command plus. Now I have this one here. Great. And now what I can do is I can change up the information again too. I can say, no, this one is account number now, and copy it, bring it over here, account number. And once again, it's printable, it's required. And once again, I can make another text field and convert it again, or I could just keep on duplicating, line up. Now this one didn't become one. That was my fault. Click and drag, there it is, line it up. Click and drag, line it up. There we go. Click and drag, line it up on the line, bring it back. And click and drag, and same here. Now, what some people ask sometimes, like, well, should I put all four here? Yes, for this one, you could do all four. You could just fill them out. And so what somebody could put is the person, the name of the company, the address, where they're at, maybe their phone number, maybe some more information, and you could just do that. Okay? Or I can deselect all, or maybe just add this one, make it the size, drag the whole thing down, and say that it's scrollable or multi-line, and then people could type in more information. But realistically, I wouldn't mind if you just kept it as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what I should do, you could select them all at once, and I could say, well, it's bill 2, and I would have to name them individually. They can't have all the same names. I can name them individually, bill 2. You're going to do that same thing. You're going to click on this, call it purchase order. Click on this, call it due date. Click on this, call it issue date. But that's all I need you to do is select all of them, make sure that they're at least printable and required. They're going to look a little bit different when they're required. They're going to have a red line around them. I'll show you that later. I'm also, you know what I'm also going to do here? I'm also going to take this, double click, and make it that Pantone color too. And that cyan showed up again, which we can get rid of later. Not a big deal. So I'm going to shut that off again. There we go. Now what I want to do, I want to make text fields for all of these cells as well. But I'm going to show you a very quick way to do that, kind of what I just did. I'm going to take another one of these cells that I just made, interactive elements, and I'm just going to make it fit inside here. Now remember, these are realistically just text frames. So how could I play with that? So it's still a text field, and let's just call these job description. You should name these all properly. And these ones I do not want to be required. These ones will not be required, meaning if I want to send this off, all this information should be required. But not every single one of these is going to be filled out in your invoice. So do not make them required, or you're going to have to fill out something in each of them, which will not make it work. And that usually will not happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click and drag, and now I have 2. I'm going to hold down Option once again, click and drag, hold down Shift, and now I have 4. And I'm going to keep on doing that, hold down Option, hold down Shift, keep them in line, and I just need 3 more, and there I am. And now look, I have all of them done. They're all printable, and they're all called job description. Now, once again, I should go back in, name them all properly, job description 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, keep going. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to duplicate those, hold on Option, hold down Shift, bring them back, the size of them, the width of them, And there I go. They fit inside. Let me just double check, make sure they fit properly. Good. And there I have all mine, and I could change all these and call them ours. I'm just going to hold down, with them all selected, hold down Option again, hold down Shift, drag them over, and I've duplicated them again. And I can call all these cost per hour. And I can do it one more time, click and drag, select them all, hold down Option, hold down Shift, bring them over, size them up. That took no time at all. I'll take 2 more, bring them down, I'll take 1 more, and make it the total. And once again, I should label these properly. These are all going to be called total. The description will be total. I should individually name each one. Click on one, call it what it's supposed to be named. This last one I'm just going to show you. You should call this one total. And there I go. And they're just printable. Once again, they're not required. Well, the total probably would be required, but in this case, I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, there I go. I'm done with my interactive elements for the text field for now. And that's it. I'm going to add 2 more things. What do I need to add? I need to add my submit form, and I need to add my little radio buttons that are going to be a part of my paid by information. Okay? So now the way I'm looking at this, and compared to my other one, I have some space here. I have some space down here. Once again, I could add more fields. I could play around with the spacing. Maybe I want to move all this, so I'm going to click off of my base so I can move all these together. Look, I'm moving my printable information and my interactive information together. All right? Making a little more space for myself. There we go. You want to keep it nice and clean as well. So I'm going to lock my base again. And now I'm going to make the submit form, or the submit button. This one's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a rectangle first. Click and drag. I'm just going to make it roughly the size of that, or it doesn't really matter. However you want your submit button to look, but it should look good. And it's already the color of my Pantone. Perfect. What I've learned is what I should do is I should put everything together. I shouldn't make a box and then make a word and put the word over top of it. So usually there's an issue with that. So what I'm going to do, I make my text, I make a rectangle, and I'm going to double click inside that, or sorry, I'm going to click on my text tool and click inside that rectangle, and I'm just going to write in the word submit. Now, the way it looks is not great, and that's okay. I'm inside. Now I've typed the type inside of this rectangle. So now, realistically, it's a text frame with a blue background. I could have done it that way too. I could have actually just selected the type tool, typed in submit, and I could have just said, oh, I want this background to be blue, and it's the same thing. But just I showed you that way. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now I have my type inside this this text frame, and I'm going to center it. And I'm also going to vertically center it too. I want it to come down here. How do I do that? Well, what I could do is I'll click on it, and I can go to Command B. Command B is text frame options, which is great. So I could right click, text frame options. I can go to Object, text frame options. And that's all I'm going to do with my text frame options, or Command B. I'm just going to say I want my vertical justification to be center. And now it's center. By default, obviously everything's aligned to the top, but I could also send it to the bottom or justify it. But this, I just want to be centered inside this. So now it's going to be perfectly centered. I'm going to make it white. But before I do that, maybe I should change it to my Helvetica. Keep it all the same. All right, and now I'm going to make it bold. Doesn't matter. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. Say, hey, submit. That's a big one. And there I go. That's more or less what I want it to look like. It's not an interactive button yet. So I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to go up here into my buttons and forms and click on a button at the top. Now it's a button, so I'm going to call it submit button. And now the event is going to be something specific. It's going to be on click. So when they click this, something's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen? Let's add an action to that button. So click on the plus sign. And we're going to say there's a lot of things you could do. That's what's so great about this. So you can make buttons all over any type of document. And the button could go to a certain destination, first page, last page, next page, previous page, go to a certain URL, play a sound, play a video. It can make an animation. So EPUB only. So if you're making an e-publication, these can work for you. If you're making a PDF only, these will work for you, which in this case we are. We're going to say we want it to submit something. And look what happens. When I click on Submit Form, it shows me a URL. I'm going to get to that in just a second. What I want to do is I want to play around with the different states. We're familiar with states of buttons. The normal state is what it normally looks like when you load a screen. The rollover state if I click on it, now it's active, will look like when you roll over the button, to show people, the viewer, that if you roll over, yes, something will happen. This is a button. How does it work? Now, yes, the cursor turns usually into a hand. The cursor changes. But we also want to do something a little bit different, something very small, nothing big. Then we're going to have a click state. When they click on it, something happens as well. So I'm going to select all three of those. So I'm going to go to my rollover state first. And what I'll do here is I'm just going to change up the tint. That's all. Just bring it down to maybe like 60%. Very simple. There's a lot of different things you could do here. Then I'm going to go to my click state, and I'm going to make it maybe, let's say, black. So what's going to happen? Normally it's going to look like this. Then when I click, or when I roll over, it's going to look like this. Then when I click, it's going to look like that. Very simple. Now the last thing I need to do is go to my normal. Oh, sorry, I should probably name this. Submit button. Just describe it. It's printable. Yeah, sure, why not? And my URL for this. So I click on the normal state, and I go to my URL, and the code is mail to : any email at any email.com. So it would be your school email if you want, any email at all, I don't care, but it should have a name, the @ sign, and obviously the URL, whatever that would be, gmail.com or whatever that would be, okay? So that is what your code is. Mail to, no, there's no spaces or else it won't work, mail to : and any email you want, okay? And that's it. So now the last thing I'm going to do is I want to add in some radio buttons. Okay, so here's how we do it. We're going to click on the drop down of our buttons and forms and click on sample buttons and forms, and that usually brings up a list of sample buttons and forms that I can see, and currently it's not bringing them up for some reason. Let me see if I zoom out, if I tab, bring them back, nothing. All right. Now what should pop up are sample buttons that I can use, that I would see, and I could just drag them out. But clearly that's not working out for me, but that's okay. I'm just going to grab these ones from I have from an older one. And I'm just going to click on that, click on one, bring it in. And that's really unfortunate. I don't know why that didn't work, and that's okay. So there it is. I just brought it in. Now remember, even when you bring it in to the sample buttons and forms and it actually shows up, what would happen is you have a list, a big list of all these different looking sample buttons that you can choose. Many different colors and there's radio boxes and check boxes and all these different ones you could grab. There's submit buttons that are already made for you, but you would just drag one of those characters and bring it onto your desktop. Now the good thing about these is that they're vectors. They're vectors, but watch what happens when I click and drag one to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. It changes the way it looks. Now, to do that properly, what I like to do is I like to transform it. I'll click on here, and I'll make it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, and look at the difference. Instead of dragging it up, it actually keeps the proportion properly when I scale it that way properly. Or if I use the scale tool, same idea, okay? So I'm just gonna click on that, scale it down, and it keeps the proportion. So that's all I need is 4 of these. I'm going to click on one here. There I go. And I'm just going to scale it down a little bit, a little too big. I can zoom in if I want, but that's fine. So I'm going to put one next to credit card. And I'm going to align it and duplicate it. Just hold down Option, hold down Shift, keep it in line. There, I've duplicated it. Let me go on preview mode so I can see better. And I'm just going to take those two and bring them over. Now, radio buttons work in a certain way. They all have to have the same name. See how they all have the same name? R5, R5, R5. They all have to have the same name in order for them to work together. If you change the name of them, that's going to happen is that you're able to click on all 4 of them separately. But if they're all named the same, once you click on one, the other ones become deselected. Now, realistically, you could do whatever you want, because in some situations, somebody might be paying by credit card and paying by online transfer, a couple different things. But let's just assume in this situation, they're paying by one way, and once you click on it, it's going to work that way. Okay? So let's leave it at that. And now let's go back to this panel. So we saw that some things were added. So let's throw out this blue. Say, yeah, just make it black. And let's throw out this other blue. I believe this blue comes from the radio buttons. So sometimes when you open a radio button or any kind of button, you bring it onto your desktop, it's going to add a color. And once again, this is processed, but it's RGB. We definitely don't want any RGBs in our swatch panel. So I'm just going to click it, throw it out, and it's going to make it black, Perfect, not a problem. I'm back to my two colors, black and Pantone, and I'm content with that. And that more or less is it. I have my name, I have my information here with all my text fields. I have my logo on its own little layer. I have my table with all the text fields. I have my submit button that works. I can click back on that and it shows, yes, it all works. It has a rollover state, click state, and the URL. And I have my radio buttons with my paid by information. Now, that's all I want to do is I'm going to make sure that I have all the information for my checklist and all that, but I also have looked at my swatch panel, and now I'm going to make those interactive buttons and make the interactive PDF. Now, the thing about the interactive PDF, I'm going to make the print one first. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to shut off my interactive elements. Now, this might look a little out of place because it's just kind of hanging out there. You might want to design that in a slightly different way. That's totally fine. I don't mind that. As for now, I don't mind this. So I'm just going to go to File and Export. And I should save it properly. My apologies. Make sure you save it properly. It's not untitled. But whatever I'm going to name it as, I'm going to name it as Invoice, or you can name it Form, and I'm going to say this is the print version. And I always like to put the month and the year, but that's up to you. And I'm just going to put it on my desktop for now. I'm just going to save it. Now it's going to be an Adobe PDF print. The other one we're going to make PDF interactive. This one, PDF print, as we do print normally. And I'm just going to say, yeah, it's press quality. That's totally fine. It's only the one page. That's all I need. View the PDF after exporting. And I don't have to worry about any marks and bleeds because there's no bleed. And there I go. I'm just going to press export. And there I am. So I have it all. It's all set up. So if I wanted to, I could print this off. I could write out some information on it, and I could submit it to or send it to whomever I need to send it to, and hopefully get paid. Now, the other way to do this, I'm going to show my interactive elements now, and now I'm going to go to File, Export, and this time I'm going to make a different one. I'm going to make a interactive. Make sure you name it interactive. And now I'm going to go to PDF Interactive. And I'm going to say save. And now a slightly different box comes up. Okay, what do you want to do? All the pages, page one, range, a certain amount of pages? No, of course all the pages, but it's just page one. Export as pages or spreads, just pages. How do you want to view it? The same options are available in PDF print, the layout, the presentation, and what actually down here in options, forms and media, yes, include all the forms and media that we've just made. Appearance only, no, I want everything to work. So that's it. I'm just going to say export. Okay. And here is my interactive. Now you know what I'm talking about a little bit more. Now, look what happens. All the red ones, the ones outlined in red, are required. That means you have to type those ones in. You have to write something in there. I'm just going to do that really quickly. Okay. Now, this one's a little close to number, so I should have brought that one back. So I could always go back and fix these. That's what's great about InDesign, and make a new PDF again. And same here. I have a job description, what I did, the hours, the cost per hour, and the total, and then I would put my total down here. Now look at the radio buttons. I can click on they paid by credit card. No, wait, they paid by online transfer. So now they work together, only showing one at a time. But like I said, you could make it show that there's multiple ways that they've paid. And now if I hover over my submit button, look what happens. The tint, and if I click on it, it changes to that state, and this is how it works. I would say, yes, using my default mail application with all that information, and it would send it to any.com, or I could just send it to whomever I wanted to, and look at all the information on there. It's perfect. All that information I just typed in is there, and there you could save that, and it's good to go. And you would just send it to whomever you need. That's how it works, okay? Now, there is a slightly different way on how this works as well. I showed you on InDesign how to make this work. But realistically, Adobe Acrobat can also do a lot of this for you. So let's pretend we didn't do anything with this. And I'm just going to open up that one that I made here, the print PDF. Now I'm in Adobe Acrobat. And what I can do is Adobe Acrobat can do a lot of this actually for you. So I'm going to go to my tools, and I'm going to edit PDF. And what it can do for me is automatically add in, sorry, not edit PDF. It's going to be create form. Prepare form, sorry. You go to prepare form, and yes, use this one that I have. It's not going to require a signature, just start. And what Acrobat does is exactly what you just did. It recognizes all the fields for you really, really nicely, and it also can add so much more. So if you want, you could add in all these extra interactive elements. You could add in text fields, you could add in checkboxes and radio boxes, you could add in drop downs, you could add in buttons if you want to add in button signature fields, and all in pictures, and lots of different things. So if I want to add in radio buttons, that's all I have to do is click on radio buttons. Oh, sorry, it's going a little slow right now. I can just click and there's a radio button, and look what comes up. I could add in some parameters to it. What's the name of it? What's the group name? And all that. I can, I believe I can hold down if I zoom in a little bit. It's almost like Acrobat is a working file. I could hold on Shift, exact same way. Sorry, hold on Option, and I could actually duplicate things. Hold on Option, and I'm going to do it again, and there are all my radio buttons. Okay. Now I'm going to make a button here. Okay. Same idea, just like our Submit button. I'm just going to click and drag. And what do I want to do in there? Well, I'm going to call it Submit. Well, the field name would be Submit. And let's look at all the properties. And with all the properties, I can actually say submit. If there's a tooltip, if I want, it not matter. Is the form field visible? A few different things. The appearance, what's it going to look like? Is it going to have a certain colors? Can I add a color to it? Whatever the case is. Okay, can I, oh sorry, that's the border color, the fill color. I can make whatever. Yeah, sure. And I could change up, here's another one. I can change up the way the text is going to look if I did that. Can I actually make that a little bit bigger? Let's try. I think that's going to be the information. No, that should be it. The positioning of it, the options, and then of course the actions on the mouse down. So that's on the click. What's it going to do? It's going to submit a form, and then I can say what the action is going to be. I can add an action, and then we can go from there. So it would be a submit form, a submit button. So close that. So now I kind of have my button. I can play around with that a little bit more. And each one of these, I can just double click, and it gives me a bunch of properties that I can play around with. How I want them to look, what they should say, all that stuff. So Adobe Acrobat does a great job of making a form for you as well. And there's so much more it could do as well. So just to show you that, I love the control we have in InDesign, but just to show you, you're able to do this here as well. But I'm more a fan of learning more about InDesigns and tabs and tables and all that. So it's very important that you know both, and that you learn and understand how much Adobe can do for you, all the great things that work.